take wary who you put on the cross. They could turn out to be what you prayed for. They didn't just make a bad judgment about you. You were laid to rest before your time. Astonishingly, though, you weren't dead. You weren't more than a seed. Wait a minute, was that you all this time? They questioned themselves, blinking in shock. That is the tension they are unwilling to publicly acknowledge. Those who mockingly murmured your name, laughed at your quiet, and rolled their eyes at your dreams are now blushing in your company, verifying their tales compulsively, and finding it difficult to speak when your name is spoken. Why? Because what they thought was just a simple misunderstanding turned out to be sacrosanct. And that's the unpleasant reality. According to psychologists, initial perceptions are frequently inaccurate and primarily the result of projection. Therefore, they weren't viewing you when they made their snap judgment. Your composure was a reflection of their own inner turmoil, worries, and insecurities. They are now making an effort to appear as though they never questioned you, made fun of you, or ignored you. Funny how someone who doesn't seem like your type suddenly shows up when God renews your entire existence, as if they were destined to be yours. Oh, and we must not forget this weird farce. Those who said you were too much for them are now covertly planning to run into you by accident and envisioning a future with. Attraction isn't the only factor here. An awakening is taking place. They can now see who you truly are since the curtains have opened. Let's look at why they fell in love with you even more swiftly and why they judged you so quickly. Get your tea. It's going to be both lovely and awkward. They didn't know your actual ancestry, so they first evaluated the packing. They made their assessment of you based on their superficial observations. Your work, your car, your clothing, and the way you live your life in silence. They didn't know they weren't competent to assess what they were looking at, so they scanned you like a price tag on a store shelf. To them, you were simply a regular person who didn't pretend to be successful, who didn't grovel for attention, and who didn't fit the mold that society holds in high regard. However, you weren't a product. They passed by your legacy without realizing it. You didn't need to flaunt yourself, so you didn't. They were shocked that you weren't in a rush to prove yourself. Your composure unnerved a society that is fixated with publishing and branding. Your humility appeared to be a weakness. Your lack of response came seen as weakness. They now understand, however, that what they didn't consider unique was actually something they were unaware they needed. In actuality, people are blind to what they are not prepared for. They didn't understand your depth. They only evaluated your looks. Before they met someone who couldn't take your place, they believed that your spot could be filled. They now understand that you are more than just a face in the crowd. You were the only person in their lives who had real value. They found the spirit, loyalty, understanding, and peace they sought in 10 different people in you. They overlooked you because you didn't show your potential. You were potential, silent, raw, and powerful. But they were so caught up in the noise that they couldn't see it. Now, when they see you shining without needing approval, healing without needing revenge, and rising without needing to prove them wrong, it affects them more than they ever imagined. They're beginning to realize they judged the gift by its wrapping before they even opened it. And now that the gift is gone, they are reliving every moment when they could have treated you better. They are watching you become everything they thought you could never be. And this is shaking them because deep down, they know that the person they rejected was sent to bless them, and now they can see it. Second, their egos misread your energy. Now their souls are hungry for it. When they first met you, they were too arrogant to see themselves. Their egos entered the room before their eyes. Because you didn't brag or plead for attention, they saw you through the prism of superiority and assumed you were beneath them. You had nothing to offer, so they assumed you were quiet. Because you didn't try to control the conversation, they assumed you were weak. However, they failed to notice that your energy was quiet. It was profound. They're receptive to it now. They were shaken by your composure in a way they didn't comprehend at the time. They weren't sure they were on their own 2 feet, but they never acknowledged it because you didn't compete. You did not pursue them. You didn't go into too much detail. They felt uneasy about this. What most people do is what they expected you to do. Ask for permission. Make an effort to impress. Make an effort to blend in. However, you didn't follow those guidelines. Their egos miscalculated who you truly are as a result. Everything has now changed for the better. They can no longer find the same serenity in anyone else that they once perceived as weakness. Realizing the shallowness of the relationships around them, they now yearn for the depth they missed. And they're upset not only with themselves, but also with themselves for judging something they didn't understand incorrectly. They were too busy looking for someone flamboyant and noisy. However, their egos were too loud to notice that they were standing next to a real person. However, your energy is now disturbing them. They start evaluating themselves against you. Furthermore, nobody can compare to you. They want to sit next to that person again, the one they used to ignore. They're falling for you now, but it's not because you've changed, since they've finally slowed down enough to sense your presence. The fact that they can't pretend to be a part of your life again is what scares them the most. They are incapable of doing it again after demonstrating their lack of regard for you the first time. Their egos told them to ignore it, but now their souls are suffering as a result. They've lost it, and they know they've got the real thing. Third, they thought hiding was the same as healing. They believed you were hiding. They interpreted your silence as an escape from responsibility, from people, and from life. They believed you were too shattered to fit in, too insecure to talk, and too broken to appear. In actuality, though, you weren't hiding. You were recovering. You were in a place they couldn't comprehend because you were performing the inner work they never did. You were dealing with wounds they were unaware existed behind closed doors while they were putting on a show, acting parts, and trying to win approval. They criticized you because you weren't always present, didn't speak up enough, and weren't visible enough. They were unaware, however, that you were healing rather than retreating. You were attempting to block out the falsehoods they had instilled in your mind. Your soul was being reset. They could never withstand the storms you were fighting, not even for a day. You were trying to reconcile with God and yourself while they were trying to go viral. Now, they see a version of you who is fearless, unyielding, and relentless. They watch you emerge with a clarity, calmness, and confidence that unsettles those who remember you in survival mode. And it confuses them because the person they thought was hiding is now shining. The person they overlooked is now undeniable. And it's not because you suddenly became valuable. It's because they were too narrow-minded to see your value from the start. Now they're falling in love with you, but not just because you've grown. It's because they finally see you. But what affects them most is that they didn't give you the chance to grow. They had the chance to support you during your tough times. Instead, they excluded you. And now that you've emerged stronger, wiser, and more powerful, they want in. But you're not in a hurry to be understood. You're not seeking validation from the same people who rejected your journey. They confused your healing with hiding. And now, they have to watch you live in peace. They can't buy the confidence they can't fake or the strength they can't replicate. And worst of all for them, you don't have to prove anything. You just kept being you. Fourth, they saw you as gossip, not realizing you were a parchment sealed by heaven. They saw you as gossip, the headline of a small town, a rumor worth repeating over and over again. They spread your name around as if it were cheap entertainment, added bits and pieces, twisted the truth, and turned your pain into a joke. They spoke with great confidence, as if they had read your entire life from beginning to end. But what they didn't know was that you were never just a story. You were a scroll, and not just any scroll, but one sealed by the heavens. So no matter how much they speculated, they could never truly know you. You were encoded with layers they could never access. Hidden meanings, divine timing, prophetic purpose, and the loudest voices understood you only in the shallowest way. They didn't understand why you acted the way you did, why you stepped back while everyone else moved forward, why you chose solitude over the spotlight. So they filled the gaps with their own ignorance. They drew conclusions from confusion. They thought silence was weakness. They thought mystery was chaos. They thought being different meant being broken. But now the truth is beginning to emerge, and because life is not going as they predicted, it is confronting them in a way they cannot deny. The lies they told are being drowned out by the fruits you have produced. Every false assumption is collapsing under the weight of who you truly are. They are witnessing the divine layers being peeled away one by one, revealing your depth, your power, your call, and your authority. Things they have never seen before. And the hardest part is that they fall in love with the person they wanted to bury in gossip. They are drawn to you, enchanted by you, even inspired by you. And this terrifies them. Because if the truth about you is so different from what they believed, what does that say about their own judgments? What does that say about their own souls? You weren't created for quick reads or shallow conversations. You were written by the hand of God, encoded with a purpose, sealed until the appointed time. And now that time has come. The parchment is unfolding. And the truth, your truth, isn't just coming out. It's being felt. Fifth, they didn't fall in love with you. They were convinced while standing beside you. They didn't fall in love with you the way they tried to convince themselves. It wasn't romantic butterflies that affected them. It was faith. Your presence began to prick their consciences. Being around you made them uncomfortable, but it wasn't because you were doing something wrong. It was because your peace exposed their chaos. Your honesty exposed their games. Your healing brought to light everything they still didn't want to face. You didn't preach to them. You didn't blame them. You were just there. And that alone forced them to confront the parts of themselves they had buried for years. You became a mirror they didn't want to see but couldn't ignore. Every lie they told themselves about being good people began to crack in your presence. Every manipulative habit, every masked insecurity, every fake persona began to weigh heavily in your presence. They now confuse this attraction with love. It's not love, though. Not just yet. It is the agony of being persuaded. It stems from their deep-seated realization that they haven't lived a true life, that they have harmed others, including you, and that they have worn too many masks for too long. Something genuine has been awoken within them by you. They also mistake this awakening for romantic desire because they are not used to honesty. You are not the object of their affection. What you carry attracts them. They are reminded of who they might have been if they had made different decisions by your light. Your strength serves as a reminder to them of the strength they forfeited in order to gain acceptance. Every unhealed part of them is disturbed by your soul, and they can't stop thinking about you. They are finally compelled to feel, not because they are prepared to love. Your pure energy makes them want to be near you. They fail to realize, however, that this attraction carries responsibility. They cannot simply admire you from a distance if they wish to get close to you. They must alter. They must turn from their sins. They must confront what your presence has exposed. And most people fail here because it's easier to call it love than to acknowledge that it's a belief. They know deep down, but it's easier to romanticize you than to say, "Being with you showed me how much I need to grow." They were not in love. The truth won their hearts. Additionally, this is the most awkward attraction they have ever experienced. Sixth, they discovered that you were the solution to their problems too late. They made fun of you. When you mentioned that you were working on yourself, they chuckled. At your limits, they rolled their eyes. They spread rumors that you were reticent, that you took healing seriously, and that you prayed more than you partied. They believed you were being too deep, doing too much, and wasting your time. They were unaware that you had become the answer to a prayer they hadn't even prayed correctly while they were focused on other things. They didn't understand your discipline, so they made fun of it. They interpreted your consistency as obsession, your loneliness as melancholy, and your structure as control. However, they weren't present on the quiet evenings when you were battling God. They didn't witness the struggles you faced by yourself or the times you wanted to give up, but you persisted in your loyalty. They called your journey excessive effort, exaggeration, or overthinking. Actually, though, you were cleansing yourself. Their world is collapsing now, and they are looking for something genuine, like wisdom, peace, and direction. Your composure suddenly makes sense. Your routines make sense. It makes sense that you are strong. They now attempt to mimic everything they ridiculed. And now, the only person carrying what their souls yearn for is the one they wrote about. They used to make fun of your spiritual journey, saying you were too profound and that you took life too seriously. However, life struck them hard, and all of their flimsy fixes didn't work. They now realize that none of the shallow people, broken patterns, and hollow friendships they see around them carry what you do. The one with discernment, clarity, and direction is the one they rejected. Pretending they didn't notice is too late. Where they believed you could never go, they see your light moving. They can sense it now. It wasn't a dramatic moment. You were following orders. You weren't withdrawing from society. They were isolating you. They now require the version of you that they rejected. They didn't just lose you, so that hurts. Heaven was using you to reach out to them, but they missed it. Looking back on the blessing they once mocked, they regret not honoring it when they had the opportunity. Seventh, they fell apart when confronted with the truth that became your reality after believing the lie that society told them. They were duped by the delusion that society propagated. That picture was crucial. The quantity of followers, designer labels, loudly declared self-confidence, and flimsy success were used to gauge value. They had been trained to prioritize appearance over content. Therefore, They ignored you when you didn't play their game, dress the way they wanted you to, or speak their language to attract their attention. You didn't put on a performance. You didn't beg to be seen. And to them, that meant you had no value. They were too busy chasing the loudest voices, the trendiest faces, and the brightest masks. Because you didn't fit the mold, they thought you had nothing to offer. But what they didn't know was that while they were putting on a show for likes and applause, you were building something deeper. You were growing quietly. You were becoming real, not fake, not cosmetic. Real. Now they're watching you rise, and it's not because you compromised, begged, or conformed. You rose because you stayed true to the truth. You did the inner work. You chose the long road. You didn't compromise your integrity when it would have been easier to sell out. And now, what you've become is shaking the very foundations of everything they thought was important. Their systems are failing. Their phony self-assurance is crumbling. Behind closed doors, the people they once admired are disintegrating. And here you are, calm, strong, and focused. It's not just them who find this shocking. It's confronting because your life demonstrates the shallowness of the standards they have always relied on. True power doesn't shout, and you are living, breathing evidence of that. Genuine power manifests itself through its essence and moves in silence. They're not merely falling for you. The reality of who you've become is causing them to crumble. Your presence is revealing the aspects of themselves that were based on falsehoods. They're not prepared to face the mirror of your success, which you've attained without taking any shortcuts. Because perhaps they never truly understood what success was if you could develop without being accepted, recover without being the center of attention, and become something without begging. Because you didn't play the game of society, you were rejected. Now, though, they're watching you triumph under entirely different guidelines. They also know in their hearts that your truth is true. Their sense of worth is merely a flimsy mask that is disintegrating. Eighth, they ridiculed the untamed nature that shaped your identity. They're hungry for your rivers now. They couldn't comprehend the season that made you mature, so they made fun of it. It appeared to them that you were losing. You didn't speak loudly. According to their standards, you weren't winning. The world was elevating you, but you weren't. Continuous motion, material proof, and visibility. They therefore believed that God had forsaken you. They watched your silent battle with arrogance, made fun of your little religious journey, and whispered behind closed doors. Where was God? They asked. In actuality, though, God was quietly creating you. It was never a punishment to be wild. In a sacred process, all that was false had to perish. Identity linked to results, addiction, performance, approval, and ego. You were being deprived of everything that wasn't in line with your mission while they made fun of your flaws. Although it was a difficult, isolating, and perplexing process, it was required because God wasn't merely preparing a gift for you. He was preparing you to deal with this without surrendering or turning into one of them. Those who laugh now are thirsty for spirituality. They are surrounded by people who celebrate their masks but disregard their souls, have shallow conversations, and celebrate trivial victories. They are also worn out because what appeared to be plenty turned out to be a desert. Those who used to make fun of your journey are now sitting in the middle of their own desolate areas, yearning for something more profound, genuine, and vibrant. And you are here, not just surviving, but brimming with a clarity that demands no influence, a radiance that comes from liberation rather than possessions, and a peace that doesn't need permission. You have rivers now. They are starting to sense rivers of healing, wisdom, discernment, and being. A silent yearning for something beyond the life they based on admiration, thirst, beauty, and attraction. They are coming to the realization that you are not broken by the wild. You were made by it. You got roots from it. Additionally, your rivers are drying up in areas they never imagined could be dry as they start to flow. Those who laughed as you were refined now hope to drink from what they once disrespected. But rivers like you do not make shortcuts. They carve their way deep into the silence. And they only flow after a soul has passed through something real. Number 9. They were deceived by the fake. And now your reality disturbs them. They had a choice, and they chose the show, the noise, the performance. Without ever asking if there was any depth beneath the surface, they chased after what shone on the surface. Loud voices excited them. Flashy lifestyles impressed them. Fast talkers made them feel important. So when you emerged with your calmness, quiet consistency, and solid stance, they missed it. They confused your reality with simplicity. They couldn't recognize the sacred because they were accustomed to the synthetic. They chose the fake because it was easier to digest. No challenge, no mirror, just a superficial connection disguised as reality. This felt good at first. It was a gratifying experience. The fake included chaos masquerading as excitement, manipulation masquerading as love, and drama masquerading as passion. But things started to fall apart gradually, for there was nothing but emptiness underneath the mask when it fell. Ghosts are now after them. They are followed not only by their mistakes, but also by the legacy they left behind. They can't explain, but they can't forget your presence. You didn't have to pretend to be there. They didn't have to sell themselves because of your presence. And a person's soul doesn't silently depart from that kind of authenticity. It remains. It reverberates. When they least expect it, it shows up. When those around them talk a lot, but don't say anything. When they are with someone who feels empty despite doing everything right. They understand that your calmness was not emptiness. It was steadiness. You weren't weak for moving slowly. They were sagacity. Passivity did not mean not competing. Peace prevailed. Now, nothing in their immediate vicinity carries your frequency. What you brought, no one brings. Nobody gives them a sense of security without requiring their obedience. And they have never heard anything as loud as this absence. When they moved away, they believed they were developing, but now they are surrounded by imitations. The true you, however, has developed to a level they can never attain. Because they lost more than one person, your individuality has turned into a mirror they can't look at without feeling ashamed. They were deprived of the chance to recover, develop, and evolve. They now carry that loss with them everywhere. 10. Since you had nothing to prove, your silence unnerved them. The fact that you didn't struggle for attention made them believe you were weak. When they didn't understand you, you didn't argue. You took your time establishing your value. You said nothing while everyone else was flaunting themselves. You took deliberate action. You prioritized peace over unimportant issues. They were accustomed to chaos, so this made them uneasy. They were accustomed to overreacting, overcompensating, and over-explaining. However, none of those actions were taken by you. Furthermore, they mistook this for passivity rather than strength. They failed to notice that your composure wasn't a result of fear. You were disciplined. It was maturity. It was the power of knowing that you didn't need to diminish yourself to be accepted or force yourself to appear a certain way. You didn't avoid conflict. You were rooted in something deeper. Your calmness didn't come from emotional detachment, but from spiritual clarity. You were already at peace with yourself, and that disturbed those who weren't. They expected you to defend yourself, to retaliate, to react like everyone else when pushed. But you didn't. You let them talk. You let them make assumptions. You let them think they were superior. And now, slowly, they are realizing that they were never superior, because they had not won if you remained silent. It indicated that you were no longer in need of fighting the battles that were beneath your calling. The very existence they once rejected now appeals to them. Because your energy quiets the chatter in their own souls, they want to be around it. They understand that you didn't need them, which is what made you uneasy. You did not pursue them. You did not put on a performance. You just waited for harmony, not approval, while standing in your own truth. They are now falling for you, but not the idealized version of you. They are enamored with your poise, your unfaked tranquility, and the way you conduct yourself without attempting to control the space. They are falling for something they were previously unable to identify. The sensation of being with someone who is aware of their identity. They are falling for someone who just is and doesn't try to prove themselves. 11. You grew instead of shining.